Yep, I see the recording icon. That's good.
The Neutra Institute has the stewardship of 3 buildings which have apartments. And it's occurred to me, Raymond Neutra, that there's a precedent to a concern for multi-household dwellings in the Neutra practice. And it starts in 1927, but the second manifestation was with the Neutra VDL Studio in residences. Called VDL for Kees van der Leeuw, the Dutch modernist industrialist who lent my father the money to build the place. And it's called the Neutra Studio and Residences because it was conceived as a multi-household starting in the first phase of 1932. My father explained this in a 15-page spread in 1934 in the Architectural Record, in which he said that he was going to take a traditional plot of land, but build out to the edges of the property so as to be able to use the space optimally. This is the next door neighbor, and you can see how differently the land use is. And he said, strictly speaking, it's not a house, but 4 separate houses, each developed to be more or less complete within itself. And then he shows what these 4 houses are. What amounts to the living room, kitchen, and dining nook, 2 bedrooms and a bedroom and a bathroom, an architect studio, a studio apartment with a little kitchen and a bathroom and another room. At first I thought, what kind of houses would these be? Forgetting that we're not having this statement in 2020, but rather in 1932, nearly 90 years ago, just a generation after people started having bathrooms in their home. In fact, you can think of the validity of this concept if you imagine that there were 4 graduate student couples living in this space. The first couple would be in this unit, which is closable, has a bathroom, a bedroom, and then an office. These people share a dining nook and a kitchen with these people who sleep on a couch here with a curtain that closes across, or they can sleep out here on the porch. This is the axiomatic drawing in the publication, probably done by Gregory Ain. You can see that there's a standard gasoline station garage door that is folding open to allow the people who sleep here or here, if they want to climb up this little ladder to the roof. And this is what it looked like. Here's the curtain that would pull across for where they're sleeping in here. And looking out through that open door, you see the porch where they could also sleep. And here is the kitchen, and here is the dining nook that they would use. The table of the dining nook folds up to reveal a big basin where you can wash a mop. And here is that dining nook with a curtain across to the other unit of 2 bedrooms, and the cabinetry and a place to put their art. This would be the kitchen. And over here is a opening to some shelves that either come into the drawers that either open into the kitchen or out into the living room. And onto those shelves would be cocktail trays with a little aperitif and maybe an hors d'oeuvre that people could take their individual trays off designed by Neutra, or the specially designed trays with a place for the main entree, salad dish, a dessert dish, or no, a glass, and then even a little test tube with a flower in it. All of that would be moved from the kitchen out to the living room. And in the bedroom unit, this is what the master bedroom unit would look like looking out into the treetops. So how might one or two households occupy the top floor of VDL? And think graduate students. Two couples would have to take turns in bathroom and kitchen. They could serially access the roof deck for socializing. There would be two ways to exit. The people in the living room could go down the internal stairway to the outside. The people in the two bedrooms could go down some stairs on the outside of the kitchen dining nook. Both couples have ample views and they have a lot of privacy. One family of four would have ample room on the top floor. So this is the back side of the VDL, and you can see the stairway out that the bedroom couple could exit on. Down on the ground floor, you see two doors there. Actually, there are three doors. In here, this room has its own a door to the outside, and the people in this bedroom have a door to the outside. So here is the bedroom, a bathroom, and the door to one side of the house and a door to the other side of the house. In this space here is the architect's office with a little room for the secretary. And here is a studio apartment with a kitchen and a bathroom, which during the day is shared with the architects. If this couple had a child, the child could stay there and have the exit to the house. This couple can exit down these stairs. And this is a picture of the bedroom at a phase of time when it had become an office. This is what the office looked like in those days. And so to summarize, how might a couple with a child and another couple inhabit the lower floor? Each has a bathroom. They would take turns in the small kitchen. They might take turns with the upper two couples on the roof deck, and the four ground floor exits allow separate egress. Except for kitchen sharing, they have great privacy. Now, these are my grandchildren looking at a model of the entire compound as it started to look in 1939, in which this garden wing was added with the living room, a kitchen, a playroom, and this wing here that had a dressing room, a bathroom, and a little room for a child with an egress over to this patio over here. So here is the living room of that wing with a sleepable couch in the corner, the kitchen, the dressing room, the bathroom, and the child's room. And then actually this was all one room at this point. And we can, there the parents would sleep in the convertible living room couch. The living room has a separate egress to the street. The child has a small room and separate egress to the patio. Child has a big playroom with egress to the patio. And then there's a garage bedroom that shares a bathroom and a kitchen with the VDL1 first floor. So that's this garage here, and this person can go up and use that bathroom. So in total, how many grad student couples or bachelors on a 60 by 70 foot lot could fit? There would be two couples upstairs, two couples with one child on the main floor, a single person in the garage, one couple with a child in the garden wing, 6 households with 10 exits. But how was it actually inhabited? The ingredients were the Neutra family, co-workers and apprentices, sometimes renters, and household help, and sometimes long-term guests. And different eras had different mixtures. In the early 30s, there were 3 households. In the 40s, there were 2 households. In the late 40s, there were 3 households again. In the early 50s, 3 households. In 65 to 63, 3 households. From 65 to 68, after the fire, Dion and his family, 1 household, were in the garden wing. In the 70s, Jonah and long-term visitors, 2 households. In the 80s, Jonah, a cook housekeeper, and a Cal Poly faculty member in the garden wing, 3 households. So here we have how it worked in the 1930s. This was the core Neutra family at that point: Dion, Frank, Richard, and Jonah. And then over here, Gregory Ain and his wife, of his first of 4 wives, of whom we have no picture, who lived in that studio apartment. For about a year, my Aunt Regula, who had gone through a divorce, lived in the VDL 1 South bedroom. And here are examples of the kind of draftsmen that worked in that drafting room. In the early 40s, after I was born, we were living downstairs and the Wilkinson family were living upstairs. So here I am. I would walk from the garden wing kitchen with a glass of milk, hot milk, to take up the steps to my daddy, who was in the drafting room, where he had been since 4 o'clock working and correcting drawings. And here he is holding me at that time, and my brother Dion playing a violin, and my mom holding me. Frank Wilkinson was the founder of public housing in Los Angeles, and he and his wife Jean and their son Jeffrey lived upstairs. When Mom and Dad and I left for Bennington, my grandparents came and moved into the garden wing and shared the place with the Wilkinsons. So upstairs, the Wilkinsons were here. They have these bedrooms, used this kitchen, could use the living room during the day, and vacate it when my father had to interview clients at night. And downstairs, they were draftsmen. My brother Frank would have been here, my brother Dion would have been here, and my grandparents or my parents would have been down here. This was my little room here, and this was my playroom. And so here is that living room. This structure here would fold up, and there was bedding rolled up in there. The cushions would go up there and the bedding would be there, and they would sleep and pull this curtain across. Then during the day, it would be put back again, and it was a living room. This is the dressing room with the bathroom beyond, and this was my little room with this closet in which at night giant pandas would sometimes jump out and frighten me in my dreams. And there was an exit to the opposite patio. This was my playroom with a garage door that opened onto a hedge, and had a door that entered into this patio and over towards this converted garage, which would open and had built-in furniture and bunk beds, where Dion slept, then I slept, and later apprentices would sleep. In the late 1940s, when we came back from Bennington and business started picking up, there were once again 3 households. This was the core Neutra household. And my mother, then Ed Farrell and his wife, who was a draftsman, occupied this space, much in the way that the Wilkinsons had. And downstairs, Miss Lovey, a spinster lady, lived in this apartment and cooked her meals and shared this bathroom with the architects during the day. Frank, my brother Frank, lived there. This was an office, and my parents once again were sleeping in this area, and I had this bedroom and playroom. And Dion, who was going to USC, was living in this converted garage room. The early 50s, I was away at boarding school for much of the time, and my Aunt Regula had moved in for about 8 years as office manager after having left the Army in World War II, where she was heading a field hospital and later was a war crimes translator. So in that era, my parents were sleeping here. The office had expanded now into this area. Frank was sleeping there. And this was just a living room. Regula was staying there, and when I came back from school, I would sleep here. Apprentices were starting to live there. And here is Aunt Regula, my mother and father, as they were about to take off for a trip. That's what I looked like at that point. And these are some of the apprentices who lived there. Erich Schneider Wessling became a very distinguished Munich and Cologne architect. Here in the drafting room is Sergei Koshin, a Russian architect. And here he is again. Benno Fischer was a Polish architect who'd escaped from the Auschwitz camp, and my brother Dion and my dad in the office. And the maid was Evelyn Francis for many years. And that continued into this period where I was coming back from college on a visit, some apprentices again, and my parents once again were living in this space up here. Downstairs, this was an office. The Sergei's picture was taken right here. This whole thing was part of the drafting room. Evelyn, the maid, was living there, and the various apprentices, 2 at a time, could be living here, come up and use this bathroom. In 65 to 68, after the fire, while there was construction going on, Dion, Mari, and Mari's children, Haig and Wendy, lived in the modified garden wing. And then my parents returned. So here's the picture of my father just after the fire. And this is what the reconstructed building was on the original foundation. But now there were certain changes. Instead of coming down a staircase, there was a bridge with a spiral staircase, and a porch was pulled out of the one bedroom, and the other bedroom opened up into the other porch. So all the rooms had an access to the outside. Here is that bridge and spiral staircase. Here are my grandchildren sitting on that balcony off the master bedroom looking down into the patio. And the playroom that I used to use was divided into 2 bedrooms, so that Wendy, I think, slept here, Dion and Mari slept there, and Haig slept there with his own exit into this patio. And here they are, Wendy, Haig, and Dion and Mari. Then when my mother moved back in after my father's death, there was another configuration of people. The studio apartment was changed so that there were sliding doors. They could open it up and open the entire space up if necessary, or if there were guests, the piano would be pulled here and these doors would be closed. So this is how it looks now. You can see the sliding doors. You see the piano is in there now in the concert mode. My mother held many house concerts in that space. But then it would close, and people like Titus Laber, the filmmaker, Maria Nordman, the artist, Siegbert Langner from Dresden, Susan Sorrells, the daughter of the people who built the Sorrells house in Death Valley, and Hartmut Zielinski, the writer, would stay there many months at a time, doing things in Los Angeles and entering and exit through those stairs without bothering my mother. Then as my mother became disabled, she was able to live in this upper level and go down this elevator to get down to the garage level to go out, or to go down to the music room, or to go up to the rooftop level. And this is Theodor Tsonis, the historian, with his wife Leanne, who had visited here back in the 50s and came back again in the late 80s, and my mother invited them in soon after her leg had been amputated. Dulcie, the maid, was taking care of her, and here we are, Matthew, myself, and Dion, after my mother came back from the hospital, in her hospital bed in that place where she died in her own living room. At the same time, there was a Cal Poly professor, Mark Dillon, who was living with his partner in this area at the same time. So you can see all these different people lived in this multi-family dwelling, all in a 60 by 70 foot lot. Now I want to talk a little bit about the roof. As you can see, in the original version, there was no covered space on this rooftop garden. This is just sort of a cockpit when you went up those ladders out onto this deck. And this lovely picture was taken. It was really only about at sunrise or at sunset that you would want to be up there because it was too hot. And it was never really very widely used. My father did a similar thing in the Werkbundsiedlung in Vienna. I am talking to the grandnephew of the original guy who was the caretaker of the whole Siedlung. He said, no, we never went up there. It was too sunny. And the same was done with the 1935 Beard House. And that owner also said they never go up there, it's too sunny. Eventually, in the 50s, this structure was put on, and it looked like this, but it was quite dusty and few people used it. But there was one use. One evening, coming back from college, I got up to go to the bathroom and I heard a strange noise. Psst, psst. I couldn't figure out where it was coming from, and I wandered around the house, and finally I realized it was coming from the roof. And I climbed up the ladder, and there was Evelyn Francis in a lotus position doing yoga breathing in the middle of the night in this place. But other than Evelyn, it wasn't widely used. After the fire, Dion enclosed the space and added a water roof to it. And so now you could enjoy this deck while sitting inside or going out. And you could sit down and enjoy the water roof. It was a great party venue, and it was also an intimate venue where you would sit on the floor and enjoy this backrest made for you while you enjoyed the lake. This door here goes into a little elevator, and Diona stored her cello in this little room behind here, and would come up and she would play the cello and even rehearse for hours at a time up there. There's a funny story where she locked herself in on a Sunday and had to wait till Monday morning until someone came back and looked around the house and finally let her out. So Neutra had a commitment to multi-household structures. They start with the 1927 Jardinette, continue in 1937 with the Koplik duplex, the Landfair apartments, and the Strathmore apartments. Then in 42 in the Kelton apartments, 48 in the LK apartments, the Neutra Museum and apartments in 1950, and the Poster apartments. And so here are the Jardinette apartments of 1927. This is the Koblik duplex. The Landfair apartments, now a cooperative housing at UCLA. The Strathmore apartments, the Kelton apartments, the LK apartments, and finally these apartments behind the Neutra Museum, Neutra Alexander office. And these are the poster apartments in the San Fernando Valley. And with that, you have the full story of multi-family thinking in the Neutra practice.
Okay. Nice, Dad.
All
right.
They say you just end the show and move out of this, and allegedly we're going to hear the whole.
Well, your recording is still going, it looks like.
Yeah, so how do I do this? Stop share and